Okay, so what are we doing today? Well, I'm a little burnt out from all this helping fire evacuees and smoky air and everything else, and it's taken its toll stress-wise. So I've decided that because of all this, I'm not going to Corowa, which would be where the military vehicle gathering called the Corowa Swim-In happens. That's a mouthful. And it's up on the Murray River, up near sort of Albury-Wodonga area, if you're familiar with Australia. So we're not doing that, so I need to get my dose of military vehicles somehow. Well, Australia Day is coming up, and there's a place called South Gippsland Tank Adventures, and in actual fact, it's run by an ex-member of the same military unit that I was involved in. Not that I did anything notable in that unit. I pretty well kicked around for a few training weekends and then had some medical problems, which I now know were multiple sclerosis. I never even made it through basic training. I never even got there. I did a few training modules in my local unit, but yeah, so that kind of was a non-issue. I managed to stay in about 1.5 years, nearly 2 years before the medical discharge, but that's pretty unheard of for somebody who didn't make it through basic training. But nonetheless, I had originally signed up to drive M113 carriers. Big passion of mine, tracked vehicles. Well, not long before I I processed my enlistment, but not long before I was actually accepted, they had a bit of a reshuffle and sent all the M113s north, gave us all Land Rovers, and I cursed and swore and claimed I'd never drive one again, and well, now I own one. And anyway, so I thought if I go up to this Tank Adventures mob, I'll get to drive an M113. Well, they gave me a ride last time they come down for an event, and I was hooked. I wanted to get back into those tracked vehicles. So they're doing a big event on Australia Day, and I've paid the grand fee for the whole family to stay overnight and do the whole shebang. And I'm getting text messages in the middle of my filming. So yeah, we're going to go up and do that. So I've got some preparations to do. So namely, I need to plot everything and stick it on my good old dusty Garmin, which needs a good clean up. So from here, what I've done, let's have a look here. So I have managed to plot, if I can bring it up on the screen behind everything here, we'll see what we've got. So we have on my two screens here, we have the trip. I'm going to follow a road called Grand Ridge Road, which is sort of a G-rated four-wheel drive track once you start to get beyond Baluk here. And Baluk has a nice little guest house that does some really nice food. So we're going to stop there. And on the return trip, I'm going to go back through some area where my the fire tower adjacent to the one I worked in up until last year, where it burnt down in the fires previous to this year. So we're going to check that out and see what's left of it. We haven't been allowed back in there since then. So I've taken all that plot in a KMZ file from Google Earth, and I've brought it over to, where are we? This is Garmin Basecamp, and I've imported that in there. I'm now going to plug in my GPS and transfer this route over to that. Just waiting for our Garmin to load up and go into USB mode. And it's just connected, and from there we should be able to see it in Basecamp. And it looks like it's just come up in Basecamp here. You can see that I also have the HEMA topo maps loaded in as well. So yeah, we'll work on importing that. Alright, so I've selected my route here, and I'm just importing it over to the memory card for my unit. Hopefully that should transfer that over. And it looks like it's been smart and put it into the user data. So let's have a look in here. We should see under active logs, South Gippsland Tank Adventures. Awesome. So I can probably get rid of some of my old logs, but hopefully that should make that available. We'll check shortly. Okay, a couple of things I discovered about my GPS that I didn't know before. One, it doesn't understand tracks or routes, unlike the more expensive models. So, and two, I had to convert everything to individual waypoints, but we managed to get all my waypoints in here. I abbreviated them manually to around about 30 or so waypoints, or there we go, exactly 30 waypoints. So I have my guides and I've positioned them at corners so I know which way to turn at each particular track. That's a good little backup to knowing where I should be anyway, but that just confirms that I am where I think I should be. Alright, well, we're outside. The last few days have been thick with smoke, and we had a wind change and a tiny bit of rain last night, and things have cleared up. And I came out in the middle of the night and just threw everything in here and angled things down. Oh, I'm having yawns. I angled everything down so that hopefully if I had any water it would run through. The last time I left this in the rain, there was a couple of inches of water in here. And I made a few changes. I worked out that around the side here, I stuck a bit of tape on here temporarily, but I had to screw these down. A couple of staples had torn loose from the flap on the other end, and all the water that was running down this back wall was actually going straight down into the base, or into the trailer itself. So I think I may have fixed that. So we're looking good, and there has been some water in here. And again, I'm getting push notifications whilst recording. It's always annoying. But I don't see any evidence of water in here, so we're doing pretty well. So I need to clean up everything in here. I need to stick that other light fitting back up there. I need to use my good expensive mounting tape that I have lost. I don't know where it is. So in fact, I've lost a few things since I went to help the evacuees. I'm not sure if they've been stolen or if I just misplaced them, but yeah, there's a bunch of things that I can't account for, and I need to find them before we head off to go and drive around in tanks. Alright, next step in the trip is going back to my old vehicle, which is now in other hands, and I need to remove a UHF radio so we can have some comms with the other vehicles in the convoy on the way to the tanks. So yeah, let's get into this and retrieve my old radios. Now this is my old Nissan X-Trail, and yes, you can see I had lots of auxiliary circuits installed in here, external speakers, camera controls, extra charging. I've got an analog VHF and an analog UHF radio in here, and media system and extra speakers and a whole bunch of auxiliary stuff in here. So the deal was that I'd retrieve my old radios and antennas, and I'd leave the sound system and the custom dash in place. So yeah, I need to get this center shroud off to start with, which is all one big piece, and I'll take my bracket off there as well. Right, center facade off. It's worth noting, because there's a connection here for the four-wheel drive control. If that's not connected, this thing won't go anywhere. It actually won't engage the transmission. Then we've got the air conditioning controls, and what was that one? That one's the hazard light switch. There's actually a whole lot more connections on that than there really should be. Now I modified the little wallet slot in this, which had a folding door on it originally. I don't know where that's gone now, but I can just take this bracket out and remove the radio from that. Now I'm halfway through extracting the speakers. We've got the central mount out, which of course I hacked to pieces. But I thought I'd stop for a moment and show you what happens when I own a car. We end up with lots and lots of auxiliary wires. Most of that is running up to here, which would have been a second glove box originally, until the lid broke off. And I thought I'd do something better with it. And there's also some spare RCAs which go up to this, and a lot of other stuff happening in here. But hopefully we'll button this up and make it look neat again. And I'll have to remove the glove box to get that one out, but we'll get there. And I've got the shakes a little bit today, so we'll keep working with that. Now, while I'm extracting wiring, one thing I did take the time to do years ago when I did this was take a look at all the wiring and label it, so I can tell what wire goes to where. And yeah, these crimp connectors are nasty, but I can at least disconnect them easily. So let's get this wiring loom apart. Alright, the glove box is out and number 2 speaker is removed. Bunch of wiring here. I think that's thick stuff. That's the 30 amp wire, no, that's 50 amp wiring to the headlights, which are staying. This is a defunct audio line, if I recall. I'll probably snip that off short or tuck it in there. I think Tinkerman Mick's gonna do some accessorizing once these have been removed. So now we need to get the VHF out. This one's a little more interesting. Alright, so I'm gonna cheat here. I've just removed the bottom clips on that unit, and I'm gonna shove a screwdriver in there and remove that bay, which is installed much the same as the other one was over here. So let's get this out. Alright, so I found my redundant cable. This is a TRRS lead. It was connected to a little video recorder I once had in here that was used for the cameras, so I can just rip all that out. I've forgotten how I mounted this in here. There's an extra mounting screw somewhere in the back. I don't know how that's in. I might have to remove this lower cover and find out. Right, so the rear covers are off, and I found way up under here, if you can see it on the camera. It's hard to see, but there's an extra couple of screws under there. So we'll get that out, and I'll check the in-cabin air filter while I'm here for them too. And that's that bit in there. I forgot this doesn't have an air filter in here. I forgot that the Nissan dealer has been screwing me for years, and I keep forgetting that I don't actually have an air filter, even though they charged me $120 to check and replace it. And it's not even there. Official Nissan dealer's my arse. Alright, well that's the dash back together, except for whatever this piece is. I'll figure out where that goes in a moment. Anyway, now onto the bonnet. Well, this has got dustier and oilier since I last saw it, but well, shit happens. I've got to pull these coax leads out and remove the antenna brackets now, and my good old AE409L elevated feed antenna. Alright, so let's get all this under control. Alright, we've got our UHF and VHF removed. I've got my AE409L removed. Actually, I better check. I think the spare element for that was still stored in the car. The VHF antenna is already at home. 2 handpieces, 2 speakers. Everything else is all pretty well removed. I don't know what I'm going to do with these days. A lot of channels I like to listen into have gone to digital, so I'll figure something out. Anyway. Alright, so I pulled those CBs out, or I call them radios anyway, removed them out of a vehicle, and I'll be putting them in one of the convoy vehicles soon. Now I have been looking for my little mini action cam, and I found all the brackets for it, but I can't find the camera itself, and I have looked literally everywhere. So as an alternative, I found a dash cam. Yeah, and the battery in this one's a little shagged, so I might replace the battery in this and use that. And then once that's fixed, we can put that back in the other new vehicle. I found a little mini camera. These things aren't great. And I probably need to pull the memory card out of that and do some undelete on that as well. So yeah, that's another one there. That one, the battery in that is shagged. I did remove this from the fence. This is a project I made with a Raspberry Pi Zero W, and it's been in service for about 1.5 years now. And it stopped working when I changed the Wi-Fi password and forgot to tell this what the new password was. So I need to open this anyway, but I'm thinking this might be good for time-lapse. I might just leave it in its current configuration and let it do a time-lapse of the trip. The only thing is it does draw a square around areas that it thinks motion detected. I could probably change that, but I probably won't. I do notice there's a melt mark in here. It's a 3D printed case. It's been a little warm over the summer, and despite the massive heatsink I built into the back. So yeah, we'll open this up and change the password on that. So that will be good for the trip there. So yeah, I think I'll be, instead of my little waterproof HD action cam, I might use a dash cam. I might do just the same job. Not sure, we'll keep looking. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and sort this camera out for doing the time lapse to start with. see how we go. So I've got a bit of aluminium tape in here which is keeping the weather out, and evidently the sun off the plastic. That looks almost like it was just freshly printed. So let's see what 1.5 years has done to this thing. If I can find my screwdriver. Here we go. Screwdriver. Alright, this is going to take some work. We'll be back in a minute. Alright, so I had heat set threaded inserts in here, and we have a bridge rectifier in here, so I can't get the polarity wrong. Actually, let's angle our camera around a bit. My MS is playing up again today, and my eyesight, my left eye is a bit funny too, which doesn't help. So we have an LM7805 linear regulator on the back here, under a bit of tape to keep it insulated, and an aluminium tape on the back here to seal in the heatsink, which it's bolted to. The bridge rectifier is really great. I reckon nearly all electronics should have that. And we have a Raspberry Pi Zero in here, with power connected directly to the board. And behind this we have a cardboard insulator, which is done very simply, and there is our color camera module. Not much to this. I realise I have a little case that's actually pre-made for this. I got given for a birthday or a Christmas present or something a year or so ago. I think it was birthday. So I might... There would have been a slight interruption in the video there. I had an incoming call whilst I was filming. But yes, anyway, we've got our colour camera in the back here. So yeah, we'll settle this up. We've just got to change the Wi-Fi password, but it means I need to connect to the mini HDMI connector to do that. That, or I can rip this SD card out, which you can't see. So I'll rip the SD card out, and I'm going to take the photos off that as well. It's probably chock-a-block full at this point. But anyway, we'll be back in a moment. Well, I was in the middle of prepping to fold this thing up while it's dry, and yeah, it started raining, and very heavily, so this will be good for the fires. I'm going to get to check if the camper is waterproof. I think my apprentice is still out here. Oh, hello apprentice. You still out here? You're not getting wet? It is? Okay. Alright, I'll shut the door and leave you here. Alright, well, I just went out to investigate a few things as a result of that phone call, and it started raining, and I am now soaking wet. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but actually have a look at my shirt here. My shirt is soaking wet to the bone. The wet t-shirt contest. Good soaking rain, really good. There's another message again. That always happens when I'm filming. But anyway, let's get this SD card out and these pictures off and see if we can get it back onto a Wi-Fi network that we can use. Alright, so I finally did it. I got around to taking the SD card out of the Pi camera, and I loaded up ext2FSD, I think it is. Yeah, which is a Linux application for Windows that allows me to make it readable, at least in Windows, rather than finding out what happened to my old Linux partition. So now I've found out I've got a whole bunch of photos on this memory problems, and as always when I'm filming I get notification sounds in the background. So let's see how many images I have on here. I think my properties window has gone somewhere. I'll find it, we'll be back. Alright, so I found out I have 14,987 files on here. I think it's full to the brim, so I think I'm going to clear all these off, and we'll start fresh. Alright, so I'm having to do this in chunks of a couple of thousand photos at a time, but we'll eventually get there. And this hopefully will do time-lapse for me. Right, after a bit of mucking around and manually accessing the WPA supplicants file, I got Footpath Cam to show up on the network. So Wi-Fi is working. Which also means I should be able to connect it to the vehicle modem, so I can check in on it while I'm driving, or at least my co-driver can. Anyway, that's that sorted. We'll fix that up. We'll move on to the next bit of preparation. Well, I got sick of trying to find my old action cam, so I bought another one. Unfortunately, my local $2 shop didn't have any of the $30 ones again, so I bought exactly the same thing from Hardly Normal for 60 bucks. But this will do the job, and it saves me having to fix a dash cam and muck around with all the other junk. So I gave up, I caved, and I bought one. Didn't really have the money to spend, but you know, it's going to be worth it for the memory, I guess. And this one probably won't get covered in mud so easily, although I might even take it out of the bracket because I think it will fit the other brackets. I don't want to obstruct the microphone, and we're not going underwater, so I have the brackets off the old one here, and I might use the external bracket and find some way to mount that to my person. And then the camera, this camera here, I'm going to try and make a bracket so I can body mount that somehow. I'll figure something out. But yeah, we'll open this up in a minute and see what it does. Alright, so the package kind of exploded with some help. Now there's stuff all over my desk. So we've got all the normal match of assorted bits and pieces and whatnot. Further to my theory that this is exactly the same camera, this is the old mounting bracket. And it pretty well fits in exactly right. Oh, maybe it doesn't. Maybe this is a little bit different. Oh, okay. Sorry, it doesn't quite fit in this bracket. So, maybe, just maybe, it might perform a little better. Or worse even, but, it's a little thicker. And it has a replaceable battery door. The old one didn't have that. We'll get into that. I'm going to need some help. All this stuff to get prepared to go and ride in some tanks. You know what? I probably don't need to pull that door open. It feels glued shut. I think I'll just leave it intact. I'll use this for what it's meant for. I'll get the card in it, and then I'll then I'll play with it and modify it after it's done its job. No point paying a premium price for this at short notice if I'm not going to actually make use of it. So let's get this charged up. I'll find an SD card and we'll do a little bit of video, probably picture in picture. Actually, yes, I'll do picture in picture right about now. And we'll be able to see the camera actually in use in the corner here and what it can do. And I haven't recorded it yet, even though you guys are seeing it in the corner here. But yeah, let's just switch to full screen, have a bit of a look at what this thing looks like. So yeah, by the time I put this here, I will have just been waving this around my desk to look at a few things. I'll be looking at some of the animations on the screen to see if there's any strobing effect or anything like that, and see how we go. Alright, let's cut that out. Let's declare this camera problem sorted, and we'll move on to onto the next stage, which I think we've got the camper out of the rain. We've got to pack that because we had some humongous downpour of rain yesterday and the day before, and everything got soaked and the MDF warped, and I had to put screws in, and my wife got her arm stuck in a bit of it and hurt herself, and there's all sorts of stuff happening. It's all stressful, so we're going to get that packed, get it up and ready. I've done the service on the vehicle. I'm checking through my checklist off the edge of the screen here. I think we'd probably be almost ready to go. I managed to get this guy up and running, as you saw in a previous clip. We're just about ready, I think. Yeah. Alright, well, I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to stop talking about all the preparation stuff, and I'm going to cut this video here, and the next clip you see will probably be the time lapse of us leaving, or possibly a few clips of just getting in the vehicle ready to go. So yeah, I'll see you then. That's going to be 5 days from now. But wait a sec. I was going to stop this video here and jump to the next bit, but I checked my old fire tower bag and I found my other camera. And this one's supposed to be 4K. So I'm going to take a video off this in 4K and a video off that. I'm going to run them through my codec analyzer called G-Spot. A little unfortunately named, but when you look at these two housings side by side, they're pretty much the same damn thing. Everything's the same. So yeah, let's get this into G-Spot. All right, so I've got the two cameras side by side. I've actually now got confused. This one I'm pretty sure is the 4K one. This one is the one I've just bought. Now 4K mode, you'll notice, is doing 1920 by 1080. Other one, 1920 by 1080 and 30 frames. It's not actually doing 4K, so it's a load of crap. And on top of that, the $30 one, let's play a clip from this one, and you'll hear it straight away. Hear that interference in the background? That's all a 4K mode does, is just introduce a whole bunch of interference. Whereas a $60 camera that doesn't have all the fancy stuff, if we load up a clip from that, dead silent. Well, at least there's no interference. I'll need to take the date stamp off that, but big difference. So as I thought, the 4K bit is actually BS. I'm thinking because the other one has a Wi-Fi module in it, that's probably where some of the interference is coming through. But anyway, I think I'll just tone this one down. I think there is a setting that actually makes it silent. I'll put it back to 1080p and see what happens. Alright, well the next bit I need to do before I disappear to Tank Adventures is change all the filters, including my air filter, which is probably full of bushfire smoke by now, and the oil that hasn't been done in about 5,000 Ks. So yeah, we'll get stuck into this. So first job, I'm going to take off the fuel filter and get that off here. And then we'll change that, which I need two hands for. We'll be right back.
Undo them all the way?
Okay, yep, you can undo them all the way. So we're down to doing the outer air filter. We're not going to do the safety filter today because that's probably good. And while we're doing that, we're waiting for the oil to drain in the drain pan. And we're done pretty quickly. Right, so I've got Tinkerman Mick here with the old air filter. And we go back to the air filter pod. And the safety filter's still intact, which is good. So I'll put the new one in. Not sure if this camera angle is going to work right, but we'll see. The camera might fall through the engine bay. Right, new air filter in. There we go. It'll take a bit of a wriggle to get it in, but it's all good. Yep. Awesome. And we can put our washer back on. Where did it go? Right in front of me. Put it back on. Right, and we'll need an end cap somewhere here. I'll get my graceful assistant here to hand me end cap, which is noisy. Must be storms on the way. I can hear that beep from the emergency app. I'll tell you, this thing is really noisy when you leave this cap off. I did it on a mountain pass once when the air filter got a little clogged. I needed a bit more airflow. So I opened this up and let it just run through the safety filter. Yeah, you'd swear the thing had no exhaust by the time it was done. Yeah. Right. We'll get these lock nuts done up and we'll be back. I might get Tinkerman Mick to do the other one. So Tinkerman Mick's my lucky for the day, of course, and he's underneath again to put the oil plug back in. And then after that I'm going to try and convince him to use a grease gun. We'll lubricate the uni joints and all the other little grease nipples under there. Get all the nipples greasy.
I'm an electronics man. Trying to work out nuts and bolts.
It's a survival skill, this. Alright. Alright, so Tinkerman Mick's having a crack at the grease gun at the moment. Very helpful considering I'm having trouble getting under here today. Alright, we're going to roll this vehicle back a bit to rotate the shaft. Alright, now for the messy bit. To get the oil filter off. I've already loosened this up. Yeah, back a bit with the oil pan. Sorry, I'm giving instructions to Mick down here. Right, now we're about to pour all the oil out of this upside down oil filter. It's going to land on the uni joint, but I'm pretty sure Mick's already just greased, so I'm not going to get him covered in oil doing this. There we go. I'll let that drain slowly for a minute, and then we'll swap the filter out. Alright, so it's time to de-virginize another oil filter. Alright, it's about 6 times the size of the one on the little compact car, but we'll get this topped up with a little bit of fresh oil and then we'll put it on. Alrighty. Alright. There we go. Whoop. Oh, the O-ring slipped off it, damn it. Oh no, it's self-centered again. Alright, we got it on without losing too much oil. Alright. Alright, I'll tighten up with the tongs in a second. Alright. Oil filter in. Alright, so time to put oil in. A little bit of the time, although this engine's not too hot, so it shouldn't matter too much, but I'm just going to do the first bit of oil in gently. Although we've left the filter in, so I'll just fill the funnel up and let it just drain through the filter slowly. And that should keep a bit of flow control on the oil. It's synthetic 15W40, it's a fairly thick oil. So yeah, we'll just let this go for a bit. We've got a whole 5 litres to get through, so we're going to be here for a while. We might skip to the end, I think. Alright, well, we're done with the oil change, and I've stuck a new hubcap on there in lieu of changing the oil seal because that's too long of a job for the short trip we'll be taking. So it started raining, everything's got wet, and I forgot to offload stuff from the vehicle, so I'll go back around there tomorrow. Yeah, what's next?